November 1932. An Australian army officer scans the horizon. Dust everywhere, wheat fields destroyed, silence. Beside him, and ready with Lewis machine guns. Ahead of them, the enemy wears no uniform, carries no weapon, makes no sound, but they advance, fearless, relentless, in numbers. They're birds, emus. It's hard to believe, but right now the Australian army is fighting a flock of wild animals that simply won't stop. They don't retreat, they don't die easily, they destroy everything in their path. But how did it come to this? Just a few months earlier, these were fields of wheat. Western Australia, vast, remote, and sparsely populated, had become home to hundreds of World War I veterans. As a reward for their service, they were given land to farm. Many started over from scratch, but nothing worked. The soil was poor, rain was limited, and the economy was collapsing. The Great Depression had hit hard. Wheat prices plummeted. The government, which had promised support, vanished. No money, no aid, only dust. And in that void came another threat. At first, it was a few birds, then dozens, then hundreds. Within weeks, more than 20,000 emus migrated from the inland deserts toward the freshly planted fields, searching for food, water, and shade. What they left behind was ruin. These weren't ordinary birds. The emu, the world's largest flightless bird, can stand nearly 2 meters tall, run faster than 50 kilometers per hour, and endure almost anything. Strong, tireless, and hungry. They devoured sprouts, trampled crops, jumped fences, and worse, broke them, letting rabbits and other pests pour in and finish what the emu started. Farmers tried everything. They shot, they shouted, they built barricades. Nothing worked. Some farms lost more than 70% of their crops. Entire families were ruined. And still, the birds kept coming. This wasn't a plague, it was an invasion. Desperate, the farmers did something no one expected. They called for help, but not for money, not for tools. They asked for the army. And unbelievably, the army said yes. And the war begins. It's November 1932. The Australian army officially deploys to the country's west. The force is laughably small, just 3 men. Major Meredith, a veteran of the heavy artillery, leads the mission. He's joined by 2 gunners and 2 Lewis machine guns, 10,000 bullets of ammunition, loaded onto a pair of army trucks. That's it. They set up a rough camp near Campion, right in the middle of the affected region. From there, they plan to intercept the incoming flocks moving south in massive groups. The plan sounds simple enough. Automatic weapons should provide more than enough firepower to wipe out any animal threat. In theory, the problem could be solved in days, but it doesn't go that way. The first attempt happens near a small dam. Meredith spots a massive flock, more than 1,000 emus marching straight toward their position. The timing seems perfect. They wait. They let the birds come close. Then he gives the order. They open fire. And at that moment, the machine gun jams. Only a dozen birds fall. The rest scatter instantly in all directions and vanish into the landscape. The soldiers stare in disbelief. They failed. The next day, they try again. Meredith changes tactics. He mounts one of the gunners on a truck to chase the birds directly. The logic is simple. If they can run, we'll outrun them. But it's hopeless. The terrain is brutal, rutted, rocky, unpredictable. The truck bounces and skids, barely staying upright. The emus, meanwhile, glide over the ground with effortless speed, more than 50 kilometers per hour, changing direction without warning, disappearing behind every hill. No kills, not a single one. And the same pattern repeats day after day. The birds always escape, always. After several weeks of combat, the army reviews the numbers. Nearly 10,000 rounds fired, the entire supply. And according to Meredith's own report, only 986 emus have been killed, less than 1,000. It's a disaster. Do the math. That's more than 10 bullets per bird, not counting fuel, logistics, and exhaustion. The operation isn't just a failure, it's a disaster. The enemy hasn't surrendered, hasn't stopped, hasn't suffered. They keep running, eating, breaking fences, unstoppable. Meanwhile, the army runs out of patience, ideas, and dignity. By early December, Meredith calls it off. On December 10, 1932, the troops pack up their gear, close camp, and leave. No casualties, no medals, just one humiliating conclusion. They couldn't control a flock of birds. The news spreads fast. The Australian press tears them apart. Headlines mock the army for losing a war against emus. International papers pick it up. It becomes a joke, even in Parliament. The laughter continues. Politicians crack jokes, suggesting that the only ones who deserve medals are the emus themselves for courage, endurance, and tactical genius. A handful of birds had exposed an entire system. And the worst part wasn't that it happened. It was that no one knew how to stop it. The army retreats, but the problem remains. The emus don't disappear. They don't get scared. They don't stop. They keep crossing fields, tearing down fences, and destroying crops. So the government changes tactics. They abandon the military approach entirely and settle on something far simpler and far less humiliating. Starting in 1933, they revive an old bounty system. For every emu killed, the state pays a reward. No more soldiers, no more machine guns, just money. And it works. Thousands of farmers armed with their own shotguns take matters into their own hands. They hunt, they shoot, they get paid. The difference is immediate. Locals know the land, they know the birds. They succeed where the army failed. Within months, the results surpass anything the military ever achieved. By the 1950s, new measures reinforce the effort. In 1953, the first major emu-proof fence is built, 224 kilometers long. Then it expands, eventually stretching more than 1,200 kilometers. Metal, tall, solid. Its purpose, to keep the emus out. This time, it works. The crops survive. And slowly, the threat fades. The Emu War ends without human casualties, but it leaves a scar that never quite heals. With time, people began to see the war differently. Major Meredith himself admits that the emus seem to use guerrilla tactics, moving in small units, fast, unpredictable, perfectly coordinated. He ends with a line that sounds like a joke, but isn't. If we had a military division with the endurance of these birds, it could face any army in the world. The emus didn't win because they were invincible. They won because they weren't playing the same game. They didn't follow human rules. They didn't sign treaties. They didn't surrender. They simply survived. Eventually, the story fades into obscurity, not because it's unimportant, but because it's uncomfortable, too absurd to take seriously, too real to forget. Because the Emu War wasn't just a military mistake, it was a mirror. It showed how a nation reacts when it's overwhelmed, when everything collapses, when power becomes the only answer. The image of 3 soldiers firing machine guns at a flock of birds isn't just ridiculous, it's tragic, symbolic, a perfect portrait of a system trying to control what it cannot understand. And that war, absurd as it seems, is still being fought, only now on different fronts and against different birds. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe. This is a brand new channel, so your support means everything.